Welcome into Geoff Schwartz, Smarter Than You. It is August 17th. I am Geoff Schwartz alongside Matt Ford. We continue on our series previewing the NFL divisions, the favorite thing we do all season. Welcome back in. We're on Twitter Live as well and on YouTube now, so you catch us all over the place. Catch us on, obviously, your favorite podcasting platform, your favorite audio listening platform. Please leave a review if possible. We like hearing the feedback for this podcast. We've done 2 of these so far. We're going to do the East divisions today, the NFC and the AFC East, and then we'll finish next week with the South. And I'm going to include Matt's favorite, college football. We'll do that next week. I will give you one thing very quickly. Utah's quarterback situation bad against Florida week 1, Matt. I'm already I'm on this already. It's in my mind. Just pay attention to that. Nonetheless, let's get back to NFL very quickly. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. That's sort of like our week 1 49ers Steelers play, which I just
Yes.
I laid down in Vegas last weekend.
Good.
I bet the Steelers +3, my first bet of the season, to cover in week 1 against the Niners, who also don't have a quarterback. I like the way you think.
I love it. The Niners quarterback thing is so interesting. We'll get to that with West, obviously, next week. I saw someone tweeting about it today. It's pretty crazy, right? Like, they're not even giving Trey Lance a chance. They spent 3 first-round picks on the guy, and they're like, yeah, not even a chance. Now, Brock Purdy, obviously, is better, but I can't remember a situation where they just didn't give him a chance. Like, they're not giving him a chance to even win the job. He's been injured, obviously, which hasn't helped. But they're like, yeah, we're out on the guy we traded 3 draft picks for. I think I saw the number. I think Dan Orlovsky put it out there. He's only thrown 440 passes in college and the NFL. That's it. His entire career. He hasn't even a chance to be good.
It would be a very fast write-off if they were to say that they're done with him. But if he sucks, just move on. Just do it. But I heard some speculation. I think one of the PFF guys was talking about, well, they're going to trade him in the middle of the season. Who wants him? If he's not good for Kyle Shanahan, this guy sucks, and they could just call it a miss. It's kind of crazy, but we'll see what happens there. It's also kind of alarming if you're a Niners fan. Purdy is not good in camp, right? Everything I've seen has been Purdy threw 3 picks on the first day. He's not all the way back yet. We'll get there next week, but I think the 49ers could be in for a rude awakening this year.
Almost like he's a 7th round pick who was not expected to be any good. It's weird how that works out.
Coming
any other
off
wagers
of a
you make
major
in
injury.
Vegas? I mean, how many wagers you make in Vegas?
I made a bunch of NFL wagers. I can go through them. We were there for a UFC fight, so I ended up betting that pretty much that whole card. And thanks to our friend Megan Levy for tickets to that. So we had a very bulletproof strategy for betting this, Geoff. So we were there. It was in the Apex, which is a pretty intimate crowd. There's only 200 people there, and my cousin and I were there, and we just missed the first 4. We were 0 for 4 on the first 4. I was like, oh my God, what? This is a disaster. We're never going to get out of this. And then what we decided to do was during the walkouts, just watch the walkouts and see who looked like they were going to win the fight and bet that. And it won every single time. Every time we were like that song better, a little bit cocky. I like Cub Swanson in this one. And every single time it worked. I feel like we might be onto something.
That's how we have to wager on, just the way we feel about something.
Maybe we just need to watch the Jets run out of the tunnel and see how we feel about them on a given day. I don't know. There was something to it, man. I think the lesson is maybe you've got to trust your eyes once in a while and just think hey, maybe this what I'm seeing actually makes sense.
Yeah. We'll get to the Jets in a second. We're going to start with the NFC East here, Matt's favorite team in this division. But a lot to talk about here is, for a reminder, for those who are new to this, here's what we do, right? We go through every team, and we're going to preview it, loosely, but from a gambling perspective, a wagering perspective. We're going to go through, talk about the win totals, if they're going to make the playoffs, and the favorite props we like. We'll do that for all 8 teams. We're roughly going to spend $1,000 for each division. Anything over that, we'll kind of piece together. We're going to spend a total of $10,000 over the 8 divisions. And we're wagering a lot more than usual, a lot more wagers than last season, because we're betting every starting running back under this season. Okay, it's a season-long project. I think we're make a lot of money doing this, and it's also bleeding over into quarterbacks. We're taking the under for rushing for all these quarterbacks as well. Injuries play a role in this, right? If you sit out a week or two, if you're out in week 17 or 18 because you've closed up the division and your playoff seed and you're not playing, many reasons to bet the under. I know not as fun, but we're trying this out for the season. All right, Matt, let's get to the NFC East here. We go in order of best projected win total down to the bottom. It is the Eagles with 11.5 wins.
Yeah, you're actually getting a little value betting the over, plus 104. They are minus 400 to make the playoffs, plus 300 to miss, and you have to lay money, lay 115 for a division winner here. Can't imagine anybody's got tougher odds than that. I'm way in on this Eagles team. I don't see any reason that they would regress, but I'm curious what you think.
Well, here's my concern about the Eagles. Are you drinking from a red Solo cup? Are you just pounding? Are you just drinking day drinking right now?
Can you imagine?
Did I see that correctly?
This would be a big Solo cup. It's a thermos because Daddy's still dragging a little at 11:45. We got to keep the coffee coming.
I mean, I get it, but I'm at the beach with my family. There's a lot of beverages flowing here for the Schwartz family. The only thing here's the thing I'll say. They have a new offensive coordinator and new defensive coordinator. Now, Eagles fans will argue the new defensive coordinator is something that is preferred, as they didn't like Gannon, which is funny because you like Gannon all season long until you play the Chiefs. And so there's a concern there. But offensively, right, Brian Johnson is going to be different than Shane Steichen. I know they're going to try to run the same sort of things, but a different type of play caller. And there was so much success last season in what Shane Steichen did now, obviously the Colts head coach. Is there any sort of slow start because of that? Their team, as you mentioned, very good. They return everyone on offense minus the right guard, and that's Cam Jurgens most likely playing right guard. They have 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen, plus Jordan Mailata, young at left guard, obviously, with Dickerson, but still, running back, yeah, okay, fine. They don't have Miles Sanders, whatever. DeAndre Swift is in there. Defensively, again, really good. Jalen Carter looks incredible in the preseason so far. They're going to be good on defense again. Brought back most of the secondary, added a couple pieces as well. They're a very good football team. Are you taking the over here in their win total?
I don't know if it's. I mean, I don't love the value, but I guess I probably would. I just don't think that. I don't see them getting worse anywhere, right? Like, is Jalen Hurts going to get worse with another year? They don't have, like, some teams, like, we'll get to the Giants, like, Saquon Barkley misses 6 games, their season's over. Like, I'm not exactly sure what player other than Hurts that is on the Eagles that if he missed time, they would fall apart. They're incredibly deep. They probably had the best defensive line in the league last year, and they added the best defensive lineman in the draft, who's apparently just wrecking people at camp already. And I just think, like, they're also still young. Like, you feel like they're kind of an older team. They do have 5 starters over 30, but like you said, Jeff, like at least 3 of them are in Hall of Fame conversations. I'd say Fletcher Cox is for sure. So I don't know. You mentioned the coordinators going, like, I don't think it's a huge deal. I mean, this happens a lot where the team can kind of regress, but I kind of feel like, I mean, the Eagles played a ton of close games last year. They won a lot of them. They got out to these massive leads where they ended up just sort of coasting at the end of it. I feel like Nick Sirianni did not get enough credit for the work that he did last year. So I actually think one interesting way to play that would be his coach of the year odds are down the range. Like, he's let me see where he's at. He's at plus 3,500. He's behind, like, Brandon Staley and Shane Steichen and DeMeco Ryans. Like, he's way down there.
Wait, he's behind Shane Steichen?
Yeah. I mean, Campbell's plus 850. He's the favorite. Then you go down. There's like McDaniel, Peterson, Tomlin, Dennis Allen, Pete Carroll, Reich. Like, you just keep going. He's past even like Belichick and Kyle Shanahan and all that stuff. So if they were to go,
I think it's a good wager.
Yeah, I think it's a good dart. I think, if they were to go 13-4 or whatever, like, I think he would get a lot of credit for not having that Super Bowl hangover. Yeah. I don't know, man. I also just think, like, Hurts is that guy. Like, you just see it the way he carries himself and the way his teammates talk about him. I just think this team is awesome and maybe even got better this year.
Yeah. A couple Hurts-related props that I like. So his rushing is at, what do we say here? It's at his rushing total is at 725.5. He rushed for 784 2 years ago and 760 last year. And I only played 15 games in both of those seasons. So obviously, if he plays a full 17 games, he probably goes over. But I think he will try to run less this season, Matt. And I think that it's a good wager as we continue to do, these props and these unders. Like, I just think he's going to try to limit that. That's how he got hurt last year. He got hurt last season running the football. To me, it's sort of a break glass in case of emergency type situation. We see this with Josh Allen most recently, where they've taken some of the running away from him, but they still use it in big moments. And that feels like with Jalen Hurts, what they would like to do is say, hey, look, we know you can do this, but let's try to not do it in case unless we have to. I don't feel great about the wager. I'm not going to lie. His touchdown number is 9.5 for rushing. He's had 10 and 13 the last 2 years. So I kind of want to bet the over for that, but the under for rushing, which I know sounds odd, but I think they'll use him again in those high leverage situations, the red zone, third downs, things like that. Again, I don't feel great about it. I think that number's a pretty good number, but that's how I would play the Eagles. This is kind of the Hurts under rushing and maybe over touchdowns.
Yeah, I can get down with that. I think. I think you're right that they're going to try to reduce the amount of damage on him, but I also think I'm really curious if somebody's going to figure out a way to sort of take away that 1 yard QB sneak that seemed to be just unstoppable last year. Because if they were, I think it would completely change their offense. But it doesn't seem like there's really a way to stop that unless they change the rules. Do you think that somebody can adjust to that, or do you think that'll just work this year?
I think it's working this year.
Just because it's impossible to scheme against?
Yeah, yes.
That's what I think. I'm looking for a certain number here. Wow. DeAndre Swift's rushing total is only 500 yards.
Yeah.
That seems really low.
Well, because they rotate so much. I feel like that's actually one we don't wager on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. They have Rashad Penny as having a higher number, and that might be the way we zag and we go under 600 for Rashad Penny, who could get that in 2 games, but also can never seem to stay healthy. I don't know. I think one thing we can keep in mind with the Eagles is if we both believe in them, there's a lot of these fun make the playoff parlays. For instance, next week if we like the Chargers and Eagles to make the playoffs is plus 100. So you're basically doing a thing where you put the Eagles in as that line of the parlay that you feel good about and bet the other side. There was also one that was I'll bookmark for later. I won't spoil our conversation, but it featured 3 teams in this division to make the playoffs at a really, really good number.
If it includes the Commanders, if it includes the Commanders or Giants, we have to have a discussion.
Okay,
so are we done with the Eagles? I put down Hurts for those rushing ones just for now. We can go back to them. I don't have a great feel for the Eagles on A.J. Brown or Swift numbers. The Penny one sounds interesting. When you say 625?
It's 600, yeah. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
He's only been over that number once in his career.
Yeah. Yeah, that feels like we could go under there if we have to with our running backs, so why not? There was also one that I kind of liked. I'm not enough to really put on the board, but I was intrigued by Dallas Goedert. He was kind of the forgotten man last year, and when he came in, the numbers for both Smith and Brown kind of dipped. I think that Goddard is just sort of the forgotten, maybe third or fourth best tight end in the league. His reception number was around 50, so I just lost it, around 56, 57. And, if he's healthy, I think he would go way over that. 57.5, but I don't know. I don't feel like we have a great edge there. I think they're just going to be solid across the board.
That's right around his career, 58, 56, 55. Yeah. I don't feel like there's much edge there, right?
Yeah, I don't either. I was looking at him, but the number doesn't work. They're a team that a lot of people follow, a lot of fantasy guys. I'm not surprised there's not a great market there, but I do think the Sirianni thing, it's a good zag.
I love it. What about division win minus 115?
It's a tough one to lay money on, no?
Yeah, I agree, because the next team is the Cowboys. Their win total is 9.5. The problem with the Cowboys, Matt, is they're untrustworthy. You cannot trust them ever, never. You just can't do it. every year I do this. Every year I say to you guys, man, I'm in on the Cowboys. And every year they stab me right in the back, right? Every season. The Cowboys are a supremely talented football team. They have a lot of good football players. And they just can't be trusted. Like, I don't know what to say. I don't trust Mike McCarthy is the primary play caller now. We saw that what happened in Green Bay, how stagnant that offense got with a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Dak Prescott interception issues. Not so worried about that. Look, guys, training camp, there are a lot of reasons why you might throw interceptions. One of them is you throw the ball after you would get sacked. You just kind of heave it up, which I've seen some of Dak's interceptions happen. There was a headline, Matt, I looked it up because I want to make sure, in 2018, that said Patrick Mahomes is throwing too many interceptions at practice in training camp. He had 50 touchdowns that season. Like, it doesn't matter as much, I think, as people make it out to be. But nonetheless, he threw a lot last year, right? It doesn't make you feel good if you're a Cowboys fan. So I would not touch their total, their win total. I would not touch much of the Cowboys other than the stuff we have to do because we've committed to taking Tony Pollard under his rushing total of 975.5. I actually. I'm like, I can't bet on Deuce Vaughn over. We just can't do that. But I do think that the backup tends to have a better season for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I like Deuce Vaughn too. He's looked great in the preseason. I agree.
Yeah,
I think
preseason.
Pollard is.
Remind ourselves.
Yeah. Pollard's never carried the load. Everyone knows that. There's all these like little things with Dallas that are kind of just flags. It just feels like too much, despite you being burned by them. Like, a little too much has gone right for them. The last 2 years, they have the best turnover margin in the league by like 10. That seems like that's going to go down. Their defense has been top 2 the last 2 years. We'll talk about this with the Jets in a minute. Like, usually defenses, they're not like offenses where it's like, oh, it's one, consistent quarterback. They're going to be in the top 10 all the time. Defenses tend to go up and down. They were the most penalized team in the league last year. They have their 2 best offensive linemen are both over 30 with some real injury issues.
My wife's here. Sorry. No,
okay.
My wife just walked in. She doesn't even know we're live. We're live on Twitter and YouTube. Want to say hi? There you go. There she is. Oh, there she is. Okay, continue, Matt. Sorry, she just likes to mess with me while I'm trying to. We're making millions of dollars on this today. Okay. No, we're not. Sorry, Matt. Continue.
I was just concerned that you were laughing at like my Dalton Schultz take.
Like, she's asking if you had your baby yet too. Like, she's into it. No, have you had your baby yet? I don't think so.
Not quite yet. No,
not yet.
Halloween. Yeah. So anyway, my wife completely
derailed the Cowboys. This is perfect for the Cowboys, right? Someone just completely derails the entire discussion about a team that we think is very up and down. So I'll reset us. I like Micah Parsons over his sack number of 12.5. It's they're 12.75. I don't understand why they do it that way. Oh, because you can have a half a sack. That's why. Micah Parsons to me is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. We can even wager on that if we want to. 13 sacks in year 1, 13.5 sacks last season. He's going to move primarily to pass rusher now. We saw that. I just wrote about this for Fox Sports. He had like 177 snaps last season as an off-the-ball linebacker. After week 10, Matt, he only had 17. So he had like 160 before that. They've moved him to pass rusher immediately, all the time. This offseason, he went to work with Andrew Whitworth. He just called him up. Hey, Andrew, I need to get better. Can I come work with you to get you to pick your brain on how offensive linemen are going to work me, are going to set on me, how we're using your hands. So I think his ascension this year is going to just through the roof, man. Like, I'm on him for over sacks, and I'd be okay with Defensive Player of the Year as well.
I love it, man. He's I think we were in on him as Defensive Player of the Year last year.
We did that in the middle of the season, right?
Yeah, without his injury, he probably would have gotten it, but he ended up slowing down. I love Parsons. I mean, the other thing that's like sneaky on the radar with the Cowboys right now is they kind of have no kicker, and that sounds kind of silly, but like they cut Brett Maher. He's on the Broncos now, apparently. Learned that today. And they've had this guy in for kicker in all camp, and they keep saying they're going to bring competition, and they can't find anyone. So it just seems like that's just something to have on the radar. Like, you know, that's not something you want if you're trying to make a Super Bowl run. Also, their last 6 weeks, Jeff, they go Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, and at Washington.
Ooh.
That's like a tough stretch down at the end. I don't like this betting on this, but I think we have to bring it up. First coach fired, Mike McCarthy plus 600. Is it possible? I don't feel like
I think it's. I unfortunately think we can make that wager in about 2 teams we go to, but I don't think it's happening in Dallas during the season.
Interesting. They have kind of a bizarre start. They go 4 out of 6 games are road games, then a week 7 bye. Giants, the Cardinals, that should be a win, but the Niners and the Chargers, I could just see a blowout against Kellen Moore and the Chargers in week 6, and Jerry's like, you're out. But I don't know, man. I just feel like they're one of those teams. I think it's just
he kept Jason Garrett for so many. He kept Jason Garrett for so many years. He's not firing McCarthy mid-season. All right, so we have Parsons over and Pollard under. Anything else you like for the Cowboys?
Not really. I like CeeDee Lamb a lot this year, but so does everyone. His numbers were really high. Let me look up one more guy here. Brandon Cooks. He's getting a lot of buzz for a comeback guy. His yardage total is 775.5 last year. He was in the 600 range with the Texans. I have a feeling he'll be open quite a bit this year. But that's kind of a high number. I don't know. I don't feel strongly about that one.
No.
Yeah. Right.
We get to the Giants.
Right. Did we do Pollard under? Did you mention that?
Yes. Pollard under 975.5, and then we did the Parsons over 12 and a half sacks as we got derailed by my wife walking in here. And then my daughter walks in here. No one ever wants to talk to me when I'm not working. And as soon as I start working, the door just flies open. We're on, for those who are new here, we're on vacation. I'm at Fripp Island. My family's here. I'm still working through it. But it's crazy. We have 5 other adults in the house right now. So 4 plus me, so 5 total. And my daughter came in and asked me if she could have root beer. Go ask the other 4 adults in the house, including your mom, who's also here. But interrupt me to ask me for root beer while it's ridiculous.
I wish I had root beer in this thing. That sounds delicious.
I'm not a root beer guy, but it has no caffeine, so I guess kids can. It works for them. New York Giants futures. I feel like they owe us a lot of money for last season, and because we kept betting them under and it never happened. So I'm going right back to the well with the unders, man. I don't buy Daniel Jones. I don't buy a team that won a bunch of close games last season. We know that there is a regression from year to year in 1-score games, right? You look at the season last year. They beat, let's see here. They beat the Tennessee Titans by 1, the Carolina Panthers by 3, the Bears by 8, the Packers by 5 with and then they beat Baltimore by 4, Jacksonville by 6. That's before Jacksonville got good, right? They beat then the back half of the season lost, tie, lost. They beat Washington by 8, beat Houston by 6. Come on, man. I get it that they're better at wide receiver right now. He's added more talent there. But what is Daniel Jones? That's my issue, right? You just paid him a bunch of money for mediocre to maybe at times okay quarterback play. I mean, his best season last year, he threw for 3,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. That is that what we're getting this year? So I'm out on them, man. I'll take their under. And the games they lost, by the way, 7 points, 14 points, 13 points, 8, 500 to Philly, 3 to Minnesota, and then 6. The last week of the season didn't even matter because no one was playing that game. But they either won close or lost by a good amount, Matt. I don't expect them to win a bunch of close games again this season.
Yeah, that's a little concerning. And they were 2-7 against teams with a winning record last season. Yeah, when they played them, which Brian Daboll obviously gets the lion's share of the credit for why they were successful.
He was great last season.
And on Mina Kimes' podcast, she was talking about how they Daniel Jones never got touched when he ran, right? The first 3 yards he was untouched. That was his average. It was the highest in the league. of like yards before contact. So Dable just did an awesome job of just letting him go. And I feel like Dable's borderline in that like McVay, Shanahan territory where it's like the offense has such a high floor that it's hard to bet against them at all. The only problem for them really is like we talked about the Eagles and regression. Like there is a lot of regression possible because Saquon was the leading target. He got the most targets last year in the passing game. The running game ran through him. He was unbelievable. He stayed healthy the whole season, which hasn't happened in quite a while. If anything were to happen to him, including this like weird contract situation that he's got going on, like if he were to just decide not to play a little, if he were to get injured, God forbid, in the middle of the season, a lot could go wrong with this team. They have a really brutal schedule at the end of the year. Includes Dallas, San Francisco, Seattle, Miami, Buffalo, and they have the Eagles twice in the last 3 weeks, which is killer. They're an underdog in 10 of their games, which is kind of bizarre for a team that's projected to go about 500, which I think is a sign. So their number though, Jeff, they're at 7.5 now, and like I do feel like everybody kind of has the same opinion about it.
8.5 would be great to go under or 9, but I'm at 7.5. I don't know if I could go under. They're 6 and 11. Are they going 6 and 11?
No, I actually kind of like the over 7.5. Weirdly, at plus 100, just because I think like Dable will be able to figure something out. But I don't know, man. This is a really tough team because I wanted to come in here and be blazing hot that I didn't like them, but like they have just like a really high floor. They're really well coached. They have some good players up front. They don't have a star receiver, but they have a bunch of guys. Like they just have like 6 or 7 receivers now. Last year they didn't have anybody, and now you look down the depth chart and you're like, all right, you just need like a number 1, and sometimes you can get those guys in the middle of the season, you know. So I think that they're kind of a stay away for me, other than the Barkley under.
Yes.
I just
Barkley
don't really
and Daniel
see,
Jones rushing.
Yeah, but it's the Cowboys and Giants to me could go in a lot of different ways, and I feel like this division is going to be kind of the same as last year, except the Eagles will be good, and the rest of the other 3 teams will kind of all be around somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And maybe with the Cowboys dropping a game or 2, but it's a really tough division to read. It's a tough team.
I think that they're a good in-season wager opportunity again, like we did last year with some of the wagers for them. I did write down Barkley under rushing 1,005, then Daniel Jones under 550.5. Do you like that one?
Rushing?
He had 708 yards rushing last year. Yeah.
I kind of feel like the rushing thing is like the most sustainable part of this team. So I would maybe go over that, to be honest.
Well, I'm not doing that.
All right.
I don't think. I think because I just think that if they're going to have better wide receivers, which they definitely have, they're going to pass the ball more. And if Barkley goes down for any period of time, then Daniel Jones rushing goes down too, because they're going to be way more focused on him rushing.
Yeah, no RPO
with Barkley being out.
Right. Yeah,
so I'll just put Barkley under. I'll just go Barkley under. We'll leave it at that with this team.
This is the respect we have for Dable. Like, if this team were coached by like pretty much anybody else, I don't think it would be a question we'd be going way under. Like the rest, like some of their upgrades, even like Darren Waller. Like we love Darren Waller. He's a great player. We need him to be out there for all 17 for the Giants to go back to the playoffs. You would think. Same, I don't know. It's a tough one for them this year. But I'm rooting for them despite having a predisposition to root against them. I think they're going to be good.
Well, let's get to your favorite team, the Commanders. 6.5 win total.
Yes.
I'll let you go first.
So, yeah, I mean, I've thought about them a lot for a couple of different reasons. Do you remember what their record was last year?
7-10, 8-9, 8-9.
So you do this professionally. They were 8-1, and most people, when you ask them, they're like they were 5-12, like they sucked. And like, they actually didn't suck. They were in the playoff mix the whole time, and had maybe the worst quarterback in the league. Maybe not definitely Heineke. We love Heineke, but like they had a pretty tough situation last year. They didn't have Brian Robinson healthy all season. They didn't have Jahan Dotson healthy for most of the season. And they didn't have Chase Young for pretty much the entire season. And when they did have him, he was not Chase Young. So if you're saying that they're going to be worse this year, how? Like, I genuinely don't know how they would be worse. Like the quarterback's
Sam
worse.
Howell.
Like, okay.
Sam Howell.
So if Sam Howell's worse, okay. Well, if Sam Howell's worse, there's Jacoby Brissett, who was like kind of around that 500 range too. The defense should be better, and their offense coordinator is Eric Bieniemy. Like they really made a big upgrade there. But I got to tell you, man, most important thing about this team this year, they're going to get their fans back. They're going to have home games. They haven't had home games for real in 3 seasons, probably, because there was literally like a boycott of buying tickets for this team because everyone hated the owner so much. They're going to have a sellout in week 1. Like the fans are going to be jacked up for once. It's going to be the first time in a while. And I just think like if they went 8-1 last year in a season where they played the Chiefs, they played the 49ers, they played the Super Bowl champion Eagles twice. Every team in the division that except them won a playoff game last year, and they went 8-1 with Taylor Heineke, and they got better. Like, so I don't necessarily think they're going to be I definitely don't think they're going to be a great team, but I do think that of the teams that have a good high number to make the playoffs, like plus 310, can they go 9-8? Like, I kind of think they can. So I would say yes, playoffs plus 310 would be how I'd play this one.
Wow. Did not expect that. Not gonna lie.
I didn't either. Gotta be honest.
Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke, right, had to beg them to play him last season at all in the end of the year when the season was over.
Yeah.
Because he's just not good enough.
Heineke for Wentz. And then it was coaching malpractice at the end of the year. It actually was.
How sad was that Wentz picture with his Eagles helmet, his Commander's jersey, and his Colts shorts? It's like, yikes, buddy.
It was not great.
It wasn't great. Okay, for them to, I do not understand unless Ron Rivera is trying to preserve his job, the need to play Jacoby Brissett at all in this season, because he's not your long-term solution, right? So you should play Sam Howell the entire time. Win, lose, draw. If you do that, you're not making the playoffs. So you're basically wagering on to make the playoffs that Jacoby Brissett plays a majority of these games, right?
So you're writing Sam Howell off before he's played 2 games. That's where you are.
Okay, Matt. We do this all the time. He's a 5th-round quarterback. Am I correct on that?
Okay, cool take. Brock Purdy was a 7th-round quarterback. That doesn't totally matter. I'm not saying I believe in Sam Howell too much, but
the Niners had what? They were 7-3 when Jimmy G got hurt. Like it's not like they were. It's not like they were 0-16 and Brock Purdy came in and led them a Super Bowl. I didn't like him come out of college, and we have a first-time offense coordinator with a brand new. Like this is his own offense. It's not Andy Reid's offense anymore. I just don't buy Sam Howell, and maybe I'm wrong. We'll do the Washington playoff bet because we've been over this before. Like if you like something, I'm good with it. But when Washington's in the worst position of anyone, Matt, which is too bad to have the first pick in the draft, and really, not bad enough to have the first pick in the draft, and not good to win a Super Bowl. Because next year is the best crop of quarterbacks in a long time. Like Caleb Williams is legitimately a rock star. Drake May is legitimately a rock. Like there's some, of course, that's going to be 50-50, but those guys have legitimate talent, and Washington's going to finish 8-9 and not make the playoffs and pick 15 again and not find a quarterback in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably the most likely scenario. I do think, though, weak NFC, that playing, I think over 6.5 is also a decent way to play this too. You're also getting plus money on that. Because I think their defense is just too good.
I go over 6.5 because I go over 6.5. That's an easier wager because you can win 7 games and not make the playoffs, and we cash this wager, right?
Yeah, I just think like Sam Howell doesn't have to be good. If Sam Howell's the 20th best quarterback in the league, they're massively improved on offense. Like that's where they were coming from last year, and we loved Heineke. He at least competed. I just think their defense is good, man. Like
it is very good. Yes,
it's very good up front. Their offensive line is the big problem there, but I don't know. It's interesting that the Bieniemy thing. You would know better than I do. The fact that you're not feeling super confident in him in a new spot, because I think that in theory that's the biggest addition they made, minus subtraction.
What do you feel? How do you feel about the all the reports coming out about him? About like Ron volunteered that information himself.
I think that was a Rivera thing more than a Bieniemy thing, frankly. And if you remember last year, Ron Rivera did the we could be eliminated from the playoffs tonight thing. Like, I think Rivera just had a little too much to do off the field, the way that the organization was running, and I think he kind of got a little sloppy in some of the head coach stuff. But we'll see, man. I got to say, last thing on this, because we talked too long about a bad team, but Bieniemy staked his reputation on this. Like, this is it. He's all in. If they stink, it's not because he didn't know who the quarterback was. Like, they knew who it was. They knew they couldn't make a generational trade for Aaron Rodgers because of the new owners, right? Like, he knew that this offensive line was what it was. He knew who these running backs and receivers were. He took this job. So he's either not the guy, or if he's the guy, then this offense should be really good. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So to finish the division, we have Sirianni Coach of the Year plus 3,500. We have a bunch of rushing unders, right? Hurts under, Penny under, Pollard under, Barkley under, Brian Robinson under. Okay, the running back unders. I like Jalen Hurts over the 9.5 rushing touchdowns. I think that continues. Just in those high leverage situations, man, I think he's just getting in the end zone. That's part of their offense now. Parsons over 12.5 sacks. I think he has 16 to 18 sacks this season. And then the Commanders over 6.5 wins. I like that one. I came into this not liking the Commanders. You convinced me. Maybe it's your homerism, but you convinced me on the Commanders there.
I'm never high on them. Like, every year I'm like, they suck. They're not going to be good. Oh, I do have a player prop I like.
Okay.
From Los Comandantes. I think this is an easy one. Jahan Dotson, over 50.5 catches.
Okay.
They're going to open up this offensive
Brown one?
I like this one a lot. I'm not necessarily going to pound the table for it because of my bias. John Dotson, yeah. So last year, he 50.5 receptions. I do feel like this one's very likely to hit. Last year, he got targeted over 60 times. He only had 35 catches last year, but again, Taylor Heineke not necessarily winging the ball out the way Hal can. You say what you want about Hal, he can throw the ball deep. He missed a lot of games last year. He was injured. I think he's awesome. Like, I think Jahan Dotson is really going to surprise people this year, and that's a really low number. 50 catches, that's 3 a game. We can do that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, buddy. AFC East, maybe the most fascinating division in all of football. I don't have like a ton of takes on this division because I think it's very hard to predict who's going to win, who's going to lose. But Buffalo's at 10.5 wins. Over's juiced a little bit. Division win is plus 120 for Buffalo. Any hot Buffalo takes you got?
I mean, why wouldn't this team be just as good as last year?
Correct.
I mean, I guess that people are a little bit tired of them kind of not doing so great in the playoffs. I don't want to say choke, but people love them. Their over still 10.5, over under still 10.5. It's minus 150 to go over. Maybe the play is to go over at 11.5 plus 140, maybe. But I think we can save time here. Like, they're awesome. Like, they have a great coach. They have a great quarterback. They should maybe get better on offense. Like, we'll see what James Cook looks like. Gabe Davis was hurt all last year. We were out on him, but I feel like he could be better this year. Damian Harris was a nice upgrade, and their defense is just good. Like, they're just good every year. And I guess the reason that their win total is a little bit low, I guess, is because the division is just awesome. But I don't know, man. I have a hard time saying anything other than that the Bills are going to be really good. And I know that's not the most entertaining take of all time.
I'm trying to see if we can find a better number for their over. I'm on the Action Network app. Oh boy, these aren't great numbers. So over, where's it over here? The over is pretty juiced, 150. There's
we could bump up their number.
140 here. So what do you think over what? What do you have?
We could do over 11.5. I mean, it's not. I've seen better value than that. But if we like Buffalo, we could do that. I don't know, man. Like I like. Should we just bet Josh Allen for MVP? Like, should we just do any of that stuff? Or, I mean,
No,
I don't love
I wouldn't
that.
do that. I think Bills over. Would you have 11.5? You said at what?
Plus 150.
I'm good with that. I think. I think that we know what they are. You're going to win a lot of games. The division's tougher, so maybe you think that, hey, they don't have a pushover against the Jets anymore or whatnot. Look, I know we don't like spending our money this way, but DeMar Hamlin, when comeback player of the year, is minus 285. Like,
yep.
I mean, I don't know how you don't wager on that. All he's got to do is be on the roster this season. Like, that's it, Matt. If he's on the roster, he's winning comeback player of the year. Like, hands down. I don't know if we want to put any extra wait till that's actually lower than it's been, minus 285. It's been like minus 400. Maybe he's not making the roster, but like I don't really. He's going to win this award, and then I don't think they can even cut him. Like, can you imagine if they cut him? Like after training camp? Well, yeah, there's no way.
If he plays one snap, I think he's got it. I don't know if we should put but it's like I looked at this too, and I agree. Like the number has gone down quite a bit, but like who could win it besides him? Like legitimately, who's the
other option is Lamar
Kupp?
Jackson. To me, it's Lamar Jackson.
Why? He quit last season. They're not going to give it to him. I feel like Cooper Kupp could get it. Like if he were to play the full season and like win the Triple Crown again. Russell Wilson, I think, is a decent idea. Like
I see a Damian Pierce plus 5,000.
Lamar Jackson, that's so funny. I feel like the stigma on him is he quit because he wanted a better contract. Like I don't. Stafford maybe, but it's
Geno Smith won comeback player of the year just because he wasn't actually physically playing, wasn't good enough to play. But that award has changed a lot now.
Yeah, but what did Lamar Jackson come back from? Like an injury that no one could report on, and then he quit because he didn't want to get worse and not get the contract.
Fair enough. But I'm putting DeMar Hamlin in here minus 285. We can figure out what we're putting on that, but I mean that's just you're just making money on that. I feel like no matter what you put on that, you put $300 to win 100, right? Like it is what 285 to win 100. Like it is what it is.
I think so. It's fine. We can tie up our money in it. It's like, what are the chances that would come back to bite us? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who else could do it. Like Odell Beckham could do it, I guess. Plus 4,500.
Yeah, but if Odell plays that well, then Lamar Jackson has a chance to win this award.
God, I don't see that at all. I feel like everyone thinks that he was.
I've never seen you really. I've never really seen you that the Baltimore hatred come out until right now. It's like I haven't seen it very much.
I like Baltimore this year. I just think that I just don't think that anyone's like, man, Lamar Jackson, like what a comeback from boycotting the last 2 games of the year so you get a better contract. Like wow, like I would bet him to win MVP before I did this one. But anyways, we're talking about the Bills.
But there's no number for any of the Bills running backs, right? For under right now. Oh, James Cook under 675.5. We have to do that, right?
I guess that's a low number.
We did it for Penny though.
Yeah, I think we have to. Coach of the year, Sean McDermott is the last. Todd Bowles is plus 6,000. He's 32nd. Andy Reid's plus 5,000. Kind of interesting. Mike McCarthy and Sean McDermott are plus 4,000. It's just like that's just disrespectful. Like Sean McDermott, it's like if they win this division by a lot, but I don't think he's going to get it anyway. It's just kind of bizarre. He's such a good coach. All right, we're wasting time.
New York Jets time, buddy.
The Jets. All right. This is what the people came for, Geoff. If we don't have an opinion on the Jets, we're in the wrong business. Did you watch Hard Knocks this week yet?
I have not watched Hard Knocks this week.
Really good first 10 minutes with a magician. Just get excited.
Their offensive line is a legit disaster. It is not good right now. Dwayne Brown coming back fixes a lot of that because Mekhi Becton should be playing right tackle. He's playing left tackle right now. Robert Saleh even came out and said, he's not even ready to play a game yet. I don't even know what that means. And that's why they're not letting him run with the ones yet. Inside the offensive line, a little concerns there, but then right tackles struggling now. The second and third string right tackles in there. It's a big concern, man. Like even Rodgers talking about it, it's a legit problem. The Dalvin Cook thing doesn't matter at all to me. Defensively, going to be good, but their schedule, man, is rough. It is a hard schedule, and a couple ways to play this for me are this. And pull the schedule up to make sure I have it correct. So, I mean, they start out with Buffalo, Dallas, New England, who I think will be a lot better. We'll get to them in a second. Kansas City, and Philly in week 6. Are they going 3-3 in that stretch, or 2-4, or 1-5? What are they doing? 2-4 probably, right?
Great question. Maybe.
And then do we bet the over win total then? Right now, I would bet them no playoffs plus 110. Yeah. So the AFC, if you're not winning your division, you're winning 11 games to be the wild card team, to be the 5th seed. I mean, you got to win 10 games to be the 6th and 7th seed. You got to win a lot of football games. They have a tough division, man. Like they have a tough schedule, tough division, a lot of moving parts, bad offensive line. Rodgers looks good. I'll give him that, but we haven't seen him in a game in this new offense yet. Plus, Nathaniel Hackett has not been a good offensive coordinator anywhere he's been. Now, Rodgers obviously makes anyone really good, so that might negate some of that concern I have. But I don't know, Matt. I'm not high on the Jets this year.
I think I'm with you, man. There's so many red flags with this team, and one of them is, you mentioned the slow starts. Like, Aaron Rodgers has been one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But if he does have one trademark, it's kind of a slow start, right? Like from the relaxed days. But even last year, they started slow. I have a feeling it's just going to take these guys a little bit of time to gel, and the schedule does not allow them that time. The other thing that's concerning about them, we talked about this a bit with the Cowboys, is defenses tend to regress. Like the year before, defenses are much more variable than offenses. Yes.
Correct.
2 years ago, the Jets had the last ranked defense. Last year, they had the first ranked defense. Like they're probably neither. They're probably somewhere in the middle. We've also seen this with rookie corners who do super well. Trayvon Diggs is an example. He kind of came back onto earth a little bit last year, but the last 2 winners to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Peters. Their best years were their rookie years, right? Like that's seemed to be how it's gone, where a guy's been, unbelievable to start his career, and then he's kind of, fallen back to earth a little. Corners just it's a tough position. It requires a lot of things to go well. So you'd think the defense is going to be a little bit worse than last year. They're also the healthiest defense last year, so that that unfortunately probably means that's not going to happen again this year. But they're a really good team, and Rodgers, like if Rodgers is Rodgers, this team could win the Super Bowl. 100%, I think it's in play that they can win the Super Bowl. But if Rodgers is closer to the Rodgers we saw last year, this sort of happened when Russell Wilson went to Denver, where we were like, wow, look at all the weapons he has, and it's like, yeah, Dalvin Cook, nice signing, but beyond Garrett Wilson, it's like Corey Davis is a nice player, like Lazard and Cobb and Hardman, like okay, Breece Hall, we're not sure what he is. You mentioned the offensive line. Like, there's a lot of things that could go wrong here, and we still don't know who Robert Saleh is, right? We still don't know if he's a good coach. We have reason to believe that the players at least fight when he's there. Last year, like, they were a really fun team that stayed in every game despite all the quarterback problems. But I don't know. They're flying really close to the sun, Jeff, and I have a feeling that fading them is probably the way to play this for now.
Yeah. I'm with you. I like all those takes. One thing I do like, are we hitting running backs for them, or just so much up in the air right now for them to bet the running backs?
I can look up the numbers if while you're talking.
Cook is like 625, I think. But Garrett Wilson's receiving number this season is 1150.5. He had 1,100 yards last season.
Under.
You like under this year?
Yeah. Interesting. I guess you're right. I mean, I just think like I don't know. He was awesome last year. So you're basically saying that he's like a top 5 receiver. That's probably where he ends up.
I think so in this offense, right? I mean, what you don't think they're going to move the ball like that? I think that I don't know. I guess I mean,
15. I mean, that's a lot of yards. Go ahead.
I guess last year there was Alan Lazard led him with 788. A lot of I'm fine laying off of that, but I think that Wilson could have that type of season.
If you think he can have that type of season, then we should explore him at most receiving yards. He's plus 1,800 for the most.
Devontae Adams was at 1,500 in 2001. In 2000, he was at 13, almost 1,400. What?
You said 2001. You mean 2010 or
yes,
2011?
Yeah, 2010.
But Devontae Adams is like one of the best receivers ever. Like if you think Garrett Wilson's that level,
my case is that Rodgers will force feed. He force feeds his number one wide receiver, and that's his number one wide receiver.
What if you bet him plus 1,800 to have the most receiving yards in the league? If you think that he's going to be like a 1,500 yard guy.
No, it's 1,100 yards, buddy. I don't think it's going to be that crazy.
All right, let's pass on that. But I'm fine with the over. He's a nice player. I'm into that. Do you like Rodgers to go over 4,000 passing yards? Minus 105.
I do. Do you?
Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. That's not that crazy. When's the last time he didn't do that? I guess he didn't do that last year.
I feel like the Jets are going to be a good like in-season wager team. Like, as they kind of figure things out, we could bet them over their win total at some point. Put them no playoffs at plus 110 for now. We'll kind of go over these as we continue to go down the list. Are we done with the Jets?
I think we're done with the Jets. Let's talk about my favorite team in the entire NFL, the Dolphins. Let's talk about them.
Okay. So, luckily, their left tackle avoided injury today. Teron Armstead got hurt at practice, but he looks like he's going to be fine. How in are you on the Dolphins?
Extremely. I love them I think the thing with the Dolphins last year, in the first 8 games that Tua completed and started, they were 8-0. And then he was hurt throughout the season. Obviously, that's a concern for this year. But they were incredible last season. Like, their offense was amazing. Their defense was a little bit of an issue, but they got the best defensive coordinator in the league. They got Vic Fangio. Like, Vic Fangio's there. Jalen Ramsey's hurt. Okay. But you look across the rest of that defense and you're like, I didn't know that they had all these dudes. Like, they still have Xavier Howard, obviously. They have great pass rushers up front. They have great secondary. Their offensive line, obviously you mentioned Armstead today. Hopefully he's fine, but they are loaded. Like, they are really, really good. And I think that their schedule doesn't seem to be as bad as some of the other teams in their division. They do get Philly and the rest of the NFC East and the AFC West, but like, they were 9-8 last year in a season where their starting quarterback was like pretty much compromised for the second half of the season. And I think that they have such a crazy high floor and a crazy high ceiling. Like, I think they could win the division. I think they could like make a legitimate deep run in the playoffs if Tua is healthy. I'm way in on this team. I think they're going to be awesome.
I'm with you. So I'm over 9.5 wins for them. I think they over 9.5 wins. And the thing about it is I think it's hard to wager on a bunch of the props because of Tua's injury concerns, right? I mean, he's got to show me throughout the season. What I did highlight was Tyreek Hill's. It's 1,305 receiving yards. He only went over that number one time in Kansas City. And he was obviously at 1,700 last season. Do you think he goes back over that number this year? Or do you think he stays below that number?
I do, man. I definitely do.
Over, right?
There's a chance he leads the league in receiving. He's plus 900 for that. I think there's a very good chance that he does something like that. I think Tua, like if Tua stays on the field, he like I think you could really get some value out of his numbers. Let me see. He was about even money to he's plus 110 to have 4,000 passing yards. I think that one could definitely hit. Like, he could get that in 10 games if he's healthy.
Yeah.
What did he have last year? He was at 3,600 last year in 13 games. I don't know, man. I think this team to win the division is a nice way to get some extra money, and they were plus at what 300 ish, and I think we could even bet them to go a little bit deeper in the playoffs. I might.
I don't know if I love division win here, because we're betting the win total over for the season, Matt. I feel like we're doubling up there, right? We're doubling up there with we like Buffalo to win over 11.5 games. Like right? That's what we wager on them to win over 11.5 games. So the Dolphins have to win 13 games to win the division. And it's possible, I guess. We bet they're over 9.5 already, right? I kind of just want to stick with one of those two wagers.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'd rather just go over 9.5 wins.
I'm cool with that.
Okay.
How about Tyreek Hill for Offensive Player of the Year? That would be plus 2,000.
Okay.
So that wasn't a tough sell. Basically the thought being like this is the perfect offense.
We could buy out of this at some point. That didn't bother me. By buy out of this, I mean you just wager other people. We have not bet anyone there yet. You're absolutely right. All right. Can I get to my Patriots takes? Because I think that.
Let's go. This is the team I feel the least confident in. So go ahead.
So their win total is 7.5. Mac Jones has been a starter for 2 seasons. They won 10 games and won 8 games last season. They had Joe Judge and Matt Patricia running the offense last season. They have a real offensive coordinator now, Bill O'Brien, like a real coach. Last time they had a real coach or offensive coordinator, they won 10 games, Matt. Like, what are we doing here? This is Bill Belichick. He could coach a defense. They ended last season. At the end of the season, they were number 1 in DVOA on defense for the last 5-6 weeks of the season. They added one of the best corners in the draft in Christian Gonzalez. So their defense is going to be outstanding this season. It's a matter of the offense. And again, they have a real coordinator this year. Bill O'Brien, for whatever you think about Bill O'Brien as the Texans coach, they won a lot of football games. They won the division 4 out of 6 years in Houston. Terrible general manager. He's not doing that now. He just went to Alabama. Bryce Young won the Heisman with him as his offensive coordinator. Like, the dude can coach offense. And you have an offensive line that's good enough. You had a Juju Smith-Schuster. Look, their weapons aren't the best, but they have enough tight ends. They have enough offensive line. They're going to be coached up well. They play in a tough division. I get that, but they're going to win a lot of football games this season. To me, it does not make sense their number to be at 7.5. Belichick has not been that bad in his career outside of the Cam Newton year, where I think they won 7 or 8 games. But it was a COVID year, and it was a season when Cam Newton was shot, and there was some injury concerns there. So this season, look, they play Philly. That's tough, right? Philly, Miami, the Jets. But they also get the Saints. They also get the Commanders. They get the Colts this year. They get the Giants. They have the Broncos. Like, they have some very winnable games on their schedule. I don't know, man. I'm all on the over here. It's the only wager I like about New England. But, like, come on. 8-9 is a very reasonable record for them this season.
So it's interesting. I mean, we basically then say that every team other than the Jets could probably go over. So and the Jets, I don't think we're saying we'd love the under either. So, I mean, you look, it's interesting. I had kind of written this team off, but I agree. It's like, I think they're probably going to go 8-9 or better. For all the reasons you said. It's not like their defense is going to be terrible. So then why not plus 250 to make the playoffs also? Like, that's basically saying if they go over their win total by 1.5 games, then they probably make it. The only problem is like if this team were in the NFC, like this outlook would be completely different. The AFC, it's like there's so many teams that are going to be in the mix, but they play all of them. Like they play the AFC West and they play the AFC East.
That's why the division win for me is hard to do for them, right? Because we saw last year and most years that the best quarterback wins every division, and so to say Mac Jones wins the division with Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen in it makes no sense to me. But they can be 8-9 and not make the playoffs, and we cash our wager.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, yeah,
we're basically saying that Buffalo has 12 wins, Miami has 10, New England has 8, and the Jets have 8 or 9. That's not, or 9 or 10. That's not out of the realm, I think.
No, I think that's probably right. That's probably right. I do think. I wonder. There's this one bet that DraftKings has. Hold on. It's you can bet like the actual standings of the division. Let me see division standings or exact order. Here we go. AFC East. We could do Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. That's plus 500. That's kind of fun. I just feel like we didn't have enough spiciness in this episode. I feel like we need a little more spice.
It's because I'm not home. I'm not in my normal setup. That's not we remember last year we did that wager to win 10 plus games, Packers, Bills, Chiefs plus 600, and the Packers won 7 or 8. Those don't hit, Matt. By the way, we took Nick Sirianni to win Coach of the Year in this episode, and we have a plus 2,000.
Yeah, I like that.
We have a plus 2,000 Tyreek Hill Offensive Player of the Year, a Nick Sirianni plus 3,500 Coach of the Year. We have some spicy wagers in here.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like it. I can look in the mirror and say that. Yeah, there's
what about the running back unders? What about unders for Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott?
Ramondre Stevenson's only in the 800s. Like I feel like Ramondre is like. I feel like he's definitely going to hit over 800. Right?
I'm going. Zeke Elliott's for sure over. I mean under.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whatever. I'll take whatever number that is. I'll go under there. 100%.
Yeah.
I think maybe the way to play if the Jets ones are out there. Are the Jets ones out there or no?
Yes, I see a Dalvin Cook is like 600 ish.
I think Breece Hall would probably be the one to go under. Because I just think with Breece Hall, like they're going to protect him. Like I think they waited this long because they were like he could do it. Like he seems.
Yeah, there's no Hall wager yet. Yeah, Dalvin Cook is at 625 and a half. We can add that too. We can add that later.
But that's like 7 games of starting. Like I don't think that's wise. I like Zeke under. Who is even the Dolphins' top running back that they have on here? Like I have a feeling that we could maybe squeeze some value out of that one.
Remember we took Myles Gaskins over 3 touchdowns and he got 2.5, 2 1 year. Was that last year?
Man. I think that's every year. That's how these work. Like they always come down to the last week. It's crazy. All right.
It's why they build towers. It's why they build towers out there. Because schlemiels like us that do these shows.
Schlemiels.
So we have Bills over 11.5 wins. DeMar Hamlin to win, comeback player of the year minus 285. James Cook under 675.5. Jets no playoffs. You want to keep that or not?
I think it's. I think it's a good number.
You said we didn't have spicy enough takes. There we go.
Yeah, plus 110. All right, I like that.
Garrett Wilson over 1150.5. I'm going to go small wager on that one. That's more of this. I think I like that one. But you're right about he kind of have to put him in the stratosphere of being one of the better. And it's possible that he does end the season that way. Miami over 9.5 wins. I love that one. Hill over 1,300.5 receiving yards. Small sprinkle Hill offensive player of the year. Then over for Pats 7.5, which is plus 116, by the way. I mean, come on. Are the Patriots going 7-10 this season, Matt?
I don't think so. I think that's a really smart way to play that. I like it. I really do. I think people are so out on Mac Jones, but you're right.
And then Zeke Elliott under whatever. Under 4 yards. Doesn't matter. But 725.5. Come on. Get out of here with
Love
that. Anything else?
I don't know, man. You want to tell us about your vacation real quick, or should we sign off?
I mean, this is my only vacation take is this, and thank you for staying. If you're here an hour already, you like me, you can hear my vacation take. Is that we're at the beach, and I very much enjoy being with my family, and I enjoy the company we're with. But beach trips do not excite me because you basically lug all your shit down to another house and then live in this other house for a week and go to the beach every day. And every time I go to the beach, the kids are miserable. There's sand everywhere. It's also 1,000 degrees out. I'm just sweating nonstop. It's just a lot of noise and just I just am not a fan of it. I'm just not. Maybe that's just I'm spoiled, but it doesn't. These trips don't excite me, Matt. It doesn't excite me to bring all my shit to the beach and live the exact same way. I have 3 radio shows this week, and I'm doing the podcast. Like I'm living the exact same life I live at home, just not in my house.
I think if you're this against the beach, you should stop going every week. How many
No,
how many beach trips have you had this summer? 40? Like every week,
no.
man. Like
No, this is no. I've been to I like going to like a resort where I did go to Hawaii a couple weeks ago. We did Hawaii. So this year I've gone to Mexico twice, once with Meredith, once with my kids for spring break. And then I went to Hawaii and then I don't mind like being at the beach. I just don't like it with kids. It's not as much fun. You're having a kid one day. You'll understand in about 5 years what this feels like. It's just a nonstop, it's just madness at all times. Yeah. And we're going to Barbados. We just planned that trip for April for spring break again. So I mean, I like the idea of the beach, but having to like play in the sand and like drag your shit out there and just roaring sweat all times of the day. It was 108 the other day here. No one feels sorry for me. I get it. But all right, next week, AFC, NFC West, some of our favorite divisions. The Niners don't have a quarterback. Oh yeah. I might as well just wait for all the Chiefs. Chiefs have a wide receiving problem. We'll talk about that next week. Yeah, glad to be here. Last thing we haven't talked. We were talking about this. No college football to cover right now. Pac-12 is done. The only headline in the NFL this week was the Michael Orr story. Do you have any thoughts on the Michael Orr story where the Tuohys were so instead of adopting him, they put him in conservatorship? The thing Britney Spears famously has been going through. What was your take on this story?
Can't say I have an opinion worth airing to the millions currently watching live after the vacation take. I will say that it's one of the saddest things I've read in quite a while. It touched a lot of people. I think that movie, which like looking back now, like doesn't necessarily feel as good as it did at the time in terms of the message. I don't know. It's a tough one because a lot of people I think had an attachment to that story and took something out of it that actually was beneficial. So I don't know, man. Hope it resolves well. It's hard to say who you're rooting for, but obviously I think most of us believe in Orr, I would think, or but I don't know. Did you play with him? Were you ever a teammate of his? I
No,
asked, but I didn't hear the answer.
No, I wasn't. Watching that movie, I read the book too. One of the few times in life I've read a book and watched the movie. People always hinted at this, right? That there was something going on where the Tuohys looked at him as their meal ticket. And I'm not sure that's quite the case after reading this. I think that there was some that they maybe realized that later, right? But there was always that undercurrent of like, is this really as good as the stories we think it is? Because a lot of times there's a saying, Matt, that we say in football is it's never as good as you think and never as bad as you think, right? When you go watch film of like a great block, you watch it, you're like, oh, it's not as good as I thought it was. Or there's a terrible play, you're like, it's not as bad, right? And that's sort of the way in life, right? And like, so the story to me fits in that mode, right? Where like it's not as good as you thought it was. You're like, oh, but also too, maybe I don't know. It sucks. I hate it. did not play with Orr, I should say. I hope they figure it out. It's
I do too.
It really it just stinks. Like, imagine you have a life where you thought these parents adopted you for the right reasons. It turns out they didn't. It'd crush you.
It'd be awful. It's really terrible. Yeah, rooting for him. Real quick, also, did you see that Deion Sanders news today that he got mad at his team for not participating in a fight that was happening in a practice? He got mad at the players who did not get involved and did not start to fight their teammates. Interesting zag by Coach Prime. What do we think?
He also said the other day that he doesn't care if the players like each other. He just cares if they win. It's a very, I don't know, man. They're going to be 3-9 this year, and people are going to be like, "What happened?" Like, well, they just weren't good enough. Like, what do you expect? Watch. The only thing I'll say about Colorado, whenever they put out clips of anyone in practice, most of the skill guys, watch the offensive defensive lines. It's not great. It's not great. You can have Travis Hunter is at 3.5. Travis Hunter is a fantastic talent. He's really good. Shadur Sanders might be great. We'll find out. But that's it. Ain't got any dudes. They have 70 new players, man. 70. It's not USC. USC brought over a Heisman winner. They had three or four of their offensive linemen already there. The guy who led the nation sacks last season was on their team. So I just, the Colorado hype is out of control, dude. It's wild.
Interesting.
Don't believe it.
3.5 was not what I was expecting. I was expecting like 6.5, and just
no 3.5. That tells you what people think. No, yeah. I took the under, by the way. I already bet the under. So all right, we're done. I know. I bet the under. 3-9, dude. Their schedule is TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State, USC, Oregon to start the first 5 games. Or I think it's Oregon actually, then USC. Doesn't matter. They're going to start 1-4. So I mean, this is what it is. So, all right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll be back next week. I'll be back home in a normal setup. It'll sound, I would imagine, more normal. We'll be back to some spicy takes throughout this process. Talk to you guys in a week. Take care, everybody.